Yeah, so I want to talk about multi-camera shows.
I always find my light.
I want to start by doing a reading from a show. The pigeon's in the shower again. It's nice to know he's looking after himself. Just throw it over him. It's not moving and it's looking right at me. I'll go. Oh my god, am I going to have to say it? He's going to say something terrible. It's my first birthday since my dad died. There, said it. What's this? He wants a party. No one should have to go around carrying this much grief and this much, something bad is bound to happen. You're unbelievable. I'm an orphan. You have a mom. She lives south of the river. The pigeon puffs up when it's angry. I know, baby. You're my hero. So what show do you think that's from? I'll give you a hint. It's not a multicam. It's from the pilot of Crashing, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Yeah, the point I'm trying to make is, even just calling something a multi-camera show sort of gives it a bad rap. I'm as bad about this as anybody. But yeah, words in the mouth of actors, just depending on context, could be really good. I consider this excellent writing, but you can also play this as a multi-camera show, and it does kind of make me feel gross, if I'm being honest. So let's talk about multicams. Multicams are a three-camera show, is another name for it. It's a sitcom. It's a multi-camera sitcom. Really came out of like the 50s and 60s, and it's as opposed to single cam, which is sort of how feature films are made. And so more and more shows now are shot single camera instead of multicam, which multicam is on a stage and usually has an audience and has a bunch of cameras around. The thing is with TV, even single camera shows tend to have several cameras because it's just more efficient shooting that way. But the multi-camera format that I'm referring to is a set on a stage, possibly with an audience, and the traditional, the big sort of stage play style performances. That's what I'm talking about here. It became popular with sitcoms. It's also the format for soap operas. And the formatting of a multi-camera script is, it's still a script format, but it's more of a stage play format than a traditional single camera script. And basically it just favors different stuff. It favors dialogue more than everything else. I guess the idea is you're able to read the scene direction and the dialogue quickly with multicams. I think that's the whole idea. So if you're an actor and you want to be able to read your lines, you can just glance down. They're double spaced. They're easier to read. Yeah. There's reasons why multicams still exist, and the big one is price. They cost an order of magnitude less than shooting everything else because the sets are cheaper, there's less locations, and the locations are controllable because they're usually on a sound stage, so the production has total control of stuff instead of shooting on location, which is how a lot of shows are shot now, which is they have to go out and either go out to a standing set on location, or more likely, they go out to an existing place that they turn into their set for the day or for the week or for the duration of the shoot in public, in the world. Multicams also tend to be shot faster because you can shoot them in as quickly as one day. Friends, I think, shot one day a week. I think it was Thursday. It was either Wednesday or Thursday. The entire Friends episode got shot in like a 8 or 10 hour period. This is opposed to single camera shows, which are shot continuously because you just got to keep shooting because it takes a lot longer. Part of that is the fact that single camera shows, no matter how many cameras you're using, are a little bit more meticulous about things. But the other part is you just can't batch shoot it because it's not a stage play format. Meaning you have to set up shots and compose shots and light shots, get that take, and then set up the next shot, compose it, light it, get that take, that whole thing, which is very time consuming and very slow moving. And there's a lot of repetition. Whereas a multi-camera, you may just do 3 takes and you may just go through the whole scene 3 times, and that might be the episode, or that might be the scene. Multi-camera shows tend to have this stage mentality, which is the kind of the experience of being in a theater watching a stage play where it's big performances, hyper real, big, broad facing the audience. You see the actor's face and it's big because people are far away instead of the camera being as close as it needs to be, that whole thing. There's usually an element of audience interaction. Sometimes that comes as a laugh track or laughter. Sometimes there's literally fourth wall breaking where the actors go into the audience. And then, the other sort of multicam trait is the lighting is usually very flat and very consistent everywhere because there needs to be decent lighting everywhere where the actor is going. Whereas in a single camera, you can scene by scene or shot by shot control how the lighting is set up in order to maximize the quality of it. So in theory, the quality of a single camera shot will be better because you have more time to control the lighting. But a multi-camera shot, everything is kind of lit at sort of a similar level. in order to, allow the actors to move around the scene. So there's big plus and minuses there for sure. Like I said a minute ago, multi-cameras are sort of the original sitcom format that came out of like the 50s. More recent stuff, think of Seinfeld, Friends. And so there's been really high quality, well-regarded shows known for good writing and good performances that are multicams. It's just they're incredibly unpopular now for reasons. A lot of what we're seeing now is actually mockumentary. So they're still single camera shows, but they're shot mockumentary style, fake documentary style, which is a different shooting style, but it sort of has the same advantages of multicam where you don't have to get the lighting perfect, you don't have to get the performances perfect, you kind of just get what you get, and in theory you can move a little bit faster. Examples are The Office, especially The American Office, Parks and Rec, Modern Family, although Modern Family is kind of weird because even though it's shot mockumentary style, it looks like they actually go through the process of setting it up and shooting it like a single camera show, so I'm not convinced they go any faster than they normally would. But in the context of like The American Office, once the set is lit at the beginning of the day, you pretty much, that's how it's lit. Whereas in a single camera show, you light the wide, you shoot the wide, then you adjust the lighting and the cameras for the close, that whole thing. But I do want to talk about the writing of it, because if you have a good quality premise for a show, and if you have good quality writing, yes, it can exist in multi-camera shows. It's just lately, everybody's preference, including writers and producers, do tend to prefer single camera shows because there's a better, more filmic aesthetic, the whole filmic thing. But it is at the cost of a huge amount more work and a huge amount more time in production to get it. The writing may still be the same level of difficulty because writing is writing is writing. But yeah, that's not to say every multi-camera show is great, because part of the reason why people have such a bad taste in their mouth about multi-camera shows is most of the multi-camera shows lately are a very specific kind, and I wouldn't say writing is what they're best at. I would say that's not even in the top 10. And they look ugly. Multi-camera shows look ugly. I wouldn't deny that. I think there's ways to adjust the traditional multi-camera format a little bit to make it look a little bit more filmic, but the multi-camera show, when you close your eyes and you think multicam, I agree. I think it's quite ugly. And the whole thing about shows is how you produce them takes time and money. It's all about costs. And so, money is definitely a difficult thing. Building sets takes time and is difficult. Finding locations takes time and is difficult. But the more important thing is time spent, because it takes a long time to shoot stuff. There are known ways to go faster. The big one is less shots, which means less camera coverage, less lighting, which is why multicam is so popular, because you only have to do a handful of takes because you have multiple cameras doing multiple things. You have the lighting sort of already done. Whereas in a single camera, you may be as hunkered down as one camera, one light, get the take, move the camera and move the light, get another take, and you have to do that meticulously through the entire scene and then through the entire episode. Yeah, so less shots and lighting attached to that. Another way to do it is less locations, which, sort of enters into, you can also do a bottle episode, which is just the one location. But yeah, the fewer locations and the better control you have of your locations, things can go faster because you have less to worry about. And you have less to adjust once you get going. That's a way more important thing. This is especially true for lighting. Also, less shoot days. The producer's golden rule is save money by doing less shoot days. That's why multi-camera shows, they're so popular, because you can get them done in a day or 2 days, whereas, it takes Malcolm in the Middle a week, 2 weeks to shoot an episode. If it was a multicam, maybe you could do it in a couple 8-hour shoot days. Another way to speed up, just do soap opera style. Just whatever gets written on the day, and then whatever gets shot, that's what you got. It is what it is. I don't think that really produces the best work, but it is a way of doing it. And it's, it's a trainable thing, and you can get actors trained into doing that quite well. I mean, it's not a coincidence that certain actors come out of soap operas and are just champions. It's a good way to work for some people. I just consider the writing to be sort of the weak spot of that. Another way to speed up is just straight up get more efficient with production. This is way less of a thing after sort of season 1, because shows kind of fall into, settle into sort of their habits, and they become extremely efficient, but that still means they're only going to be as efficient as they can become. And most of the time with a single camera show, it's efficient, but it still takes a long time, just because it takes a long time to shoot a single camera show, just like it takes a long time to shoot a feature film. It's a lot of setting up. It's a lot of waiting. I'd say any show that goes into season 3, unless it's made some huge change going into season 3, has pretty much maxed out its ability to be efficient and fast. So whatever that speed is, that's what they're going to be doing. Another way to go faster is find a narrative reason for the look that you have. And this points directly to like The Office being a mockumentary. So it is sort of at taking advantage of the rules of a 3-camera show or a multi-camera sitcom, but it's not. It's admitting that the reason it looks ugly is because it's a mockumentary or found footage or on the computer screen or completely shot on a phone, all those kind of things. A reason to explain why it doesn't inherently look as good as a movie. Another way to do it, and this is more and more popular because shows keep getting shorter and shorter seasons now, is write the season way ahead of time, 6 months ahead, 3 months ahead. Always Sunny kind of perfected this, where they write 10 episodes and then a couple months go by and then they shoot 10 episodes. And they're extremely efficient because they will have worked out all the sort of narrative and writing problems way ahead of time, whereas a show that's writing as it shoots is constantly having to change stuff, and that creates delays on set and delays in the writer's room because they're having to walk back stuff, whereas, if the scripts are locked months in advance, everybody has a head start on everything because they know nothing's going to change and jeopardize what they're doing. So where are multicams going from here? I honestly don't know. They're definitely going to keep being around because there seems to be some kind of appetite for them, even though me and mine find them to be pretty yucky across the board. I think we're going to find more stylized shows that sort of bridge the gap between a traditional multicam and like a single camera show. I think mockumentary was a good start. I think just the way the technology is going, it's going to be sort of a hybrid of everything. And I think the whole like shot on your phone thing is going to actually be part of it for sure. Yeah, some smaller cameras, which means maybe smaller lighting or less lighting, and smaller crews. And so, we have a smaller footprint, which makes you a little bit more efficient and more nimble as a crew. And maybe you can get stuff shot that way a lot faster. I think that's an avenue for sure. I mean, whatever you can do to speed up the production. I think part of that is acknowledging that shooting on a stage, on a set, is quite controllable, and you can go a lot faster that way. As someone who's crewed, I've never actually got an opportunity to work on a traditional multicam set, but I hear it's awesome because it's usually at a studio, on a stage. You only have X amount of days where the actors are in actually doing the actual taping of it, whereas on the single camera projects that I've worked on, you're constantly just grinding it out. Everything is always happening the whole time because you just got to keep going. Yeah, I mean, unless you've actually worked on a crew, you don't realize how many sort of resources are involved in shooting on location. There's a catering team that has to bring a truck out and make a catering site. All the departments basically have trucks that they have to travel with. And so, there's an AD trailer, there's a production trailer, there's all these different things. You got to have access to bathrooms, you got to have access to changing rooms, makeup stations, all these things. And honestly, working on a studio lot with those resources built in is it's awesome. The traditional multicam look is always going to be a problem for me because I think it looks cheap and I think it looks bad. And I think there's ways to make something at that level of effort look a lot better. And part of that is it really necessary to have an audience these days? And I think unless you're a game show or Saturday Night Live or an award show, do you really need, a bunch of tourists brought in for free in Hawaiian shirts sitting on the risers? At the end of the day, every show is going to look increasingly like the movies because of all the reasons. And that's awesome. And I would just like multicams to catch up with that. And it seems like the ones that are actually still doing multicams are the ones that are committed to the old way of doing it. And I don't think that's good for anybody. I mean, if I had a show and I could get it to look good enough that people wouldn't immediately look at it and go, oh my God, this is a multicam, but still have the workflow of a multicam, I think that's the sweet spot. I would like to go across the street out of the stages and go get a corn dog and come back and, do my thing instead of having to shoot on location 30 miles out of town because that's the cheapest place we could find for what we were trying to do. I mean, there's artistic merit in finding these incredible exotic locations that are in the middle of nowhere and you have to bring an entire, production to support what's going on. But that doesn't need to be every show. Yeah, I mean, I just watched another Netflix produced sitcom that was 3 cameras and I couldn't get through the pilot. And so I felt like I had to talk about it. At some point, I'm going to shoot a 3-camera pilot just so I said I did. I'd like to say it's a coincidence that all my outfits look like sitcom outfits from like a Disney show, but that's just, for some reason, that's how I'm dressing.